Horwitz learned all about public relations as a young girl when her mother did what came naturally to her. She brought her kids to work. Having started in her career in PR, Hope took a detour and spent 14 years working with various nonprofit organizations, coordinating their fundraising events. She's had leadership positions within Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, Make-A-Wish Foundation of New Jersey, Deborah Hospital Foundation, and she also owned her own business, Hopeful Solutions. Today, at Felcher Horwitz Public Relations, they always go above and beyond. Based in the greater Philadelphia area, their team provides PR services that are uniquely tailored to an organization's needs. Whether you are seeking help with media relations, publicity, special events, or community relations, they work to maximize your opportunities and deliver results. They also specialize in bringing that extra flair and personal touch that makes their partners stand out. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in public relations, because I love the backstory to this. And it's so much fun given the fact of what you're doing now and your ownership in this company. So tell us a little bit about it.
So I was raised in PR. My mother did not enjoy being a stay-at-home mother once her kids went to school. She actually started out as a kindergarten teacher, and the way she tells it, she retired at the ripe old age of 28 when I was born, her youngest child. And, then you stayed home. And she did. She stayed home and she raised us. And then I started going to elementary school, and you have your entire day to twiddle your thumbs. And, it's however many years later.
5 or 6.
5 or 6, right. And she still doesn't sit still, to this day. So she actually started volunteering at the Please Touch Museum and then became their first part-time public relations director, whatever the title was. And then Sesame Place saw what she was doing because, again, she does nothing small, and created this huge Philadelphia Celebrates Children event. And it was fabulous. Although right about then at my 10th birthday, and I went to the big parade and I got lost at the Bourse building, kind of foreshadowed my childhood and her work. But so Sesame Place asked her to be their public relations consultant. And she took about 6 months to kind of figure out how to do that. And, from there, the rest is history. I literally was raised in PR. So whether it was stuffing press releases because we didn't have email, and before there was even fax and you would mail them, I would go to work with her every time school was closed on the weekends. And I just kind of picked up a knack for it and started out. I went to college and studied PR, and I started out in it, and I didn't like it. And I was, 23 years old, and my first job didn't go so well. And I left that job and I went to work for another one, for an agency, which is where I am now. So it gave me a better taste. And what would happen is if a restaurant opening didn't get covered, my response would be exactly what you have to say to a client. And I would hang up and say, you're not curing world hunger. There's a block-long fire, or whatever the breaking news is that you didn't get covered. I wound up taking a 15-year hiatus from PR and worked in fundraising and event planning, and still used a lot of what I knew as PR when I came back to work for my mother. There, of course, wasn't just a simple decision. It was a crazy story. But I had learned so much and gained so much experience that my vision and my view of what it was so different. And I just enjoyed it so much, coming up with those fun, I call them fun. Again, my business partner doesn't like when I describe what we do as, fun. It is, but we really have a good time working with our clients and finding their stories and then finding ways to pitch it to the media that make sense for the media and still cover the client's goals and mission and whatnot. So I worked in PR for quite a while, just being at events and being, the helper and the college intern. There's quite a few people in Philadelphia who used to work for my mother, and I was their first college intern.
Well, and I love how you recognize, and this is really important because you're right, is people who are looking to get in the media, or maybe they've even gotten interviewed and their story is supposed to air tomorrow morning on Good Morning America, but, heaven help us, we have a tornado that, goes through someplace. Is that understanding that many times what we want may not always happen, but that doesn't mean all is lost.
Right.
Also, to respect and understand the people in the media and what they're facing every day to try and get the right stories out at the right time, that, there's some pieces that you don't control. So sometimes you just have to be a lot more patient.
It's an interesting place to be in. And whether I should ever say this out loud or not, I'm going to.
You realize we are taping this, Hope.
I do. It's okay. We have a commitment to our client. We have a relationship with our client. I'm not the most professional person you'll ever meet. I'm appropriate, but I'm not the most professional person. If I'm going to spend my day doing this, I want to enjoy the person I'm talking to. And for me, that's personal. So you have this commitment to your client and desire to do well by them. And then you also have the commitment you need to make in this industry to be respectful of what a reporter needs, of what a producer needs, a news director needs. Those two things don't always match. And so you typically always do it the way the reporter needs to, or you don't do it at all. You say, okay, you know what? I don't think it's going to work. We're not able to make the story be exactly that. And on rare occasion, you just say, no, thank you. Let's look to the future when we can work together again. But you have to be very aware of what the reporter needs in order to do their job. And my job is giving them their story or helping them find their story. They create their story. And sometimes working with my clients and working with a reporter, we are able to all work together in order to turn it into the story that the reporter needs, or the news director or the producer, whoever we're working with.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hope, obviously the people that are watching this conference are people that are interested in having more time in front of cameras. Ideally, they want to be that news story. They want, whether it's them themselves as an expert, or maybe it's somebody who is representing their own company and trying to get more media exposure for what they're doing. So what in your experience makes someone or something or some organization or some event newsworthy?
It really goes to looking at what the reporter talks about, what their beat is. It goes to looking at what's timely. If I have a client that's doing something really cool, but I can't tie it to current events or just the current day in any way whatsoever, how is this newsworthy? I have to find that piece. I won't say angle. I have to find that piece that makes it newsworthy. I have a really good example. I have a couple, but the last Olympics, 2016 Summer Olympics, on opening day, one of my clients was a senior assisted living community, and they were having at 11 a.m. a conversation about the Olympics. 7 p.m. in Rio was opening ceremony. And I got so excited and I said, conversation? I'm like, will you let me redo this? And we created, and at this point, she was very used to me. She knows what I do. She knows I'm about to go overboard. And instead of having a conversation, we basically handed the press their Olympics feel-good story for the day. So what we did was we created our own opening ceremony and Olympic Games at the assisted living. We had tiki torches lit with paper flames, and we had the seniors walk in with them to Katy Perry's song that she wrote for the Olympics, her theme song. And then we had the Halloween cauldron that they use on Halloween, and we had paper flames coming out of that, and they lit so it was the Olympic torch, and they lit the cauldron. And then we had games indoors. We had balloon volleyball, ring toss, and something else. I can't remember at this point, but it was all very appropriate. The seniors had a blast. We had hula hoops hanging in the background in the appropriate colors as the rings. We found the first, second, and third place. We had the wreaths. The crown wreaths we gave them awards. And because medals, because I was able to work with my clients so closely, I was able to then create a visual of this event on paper and send it out to the press. And we had someone from our local KYW News Radio come out. We had a reporter from NBC 10 come out. There's a television station, SNJ Today, in South Jersey, southerner than me, it's a real word. They came out, and on NBC when it aired, the reporter that was live in Rio said, and now take a look at a local assisted living community where the seniors really got into the festivities, and they threw it from Rio to the reporter who is Sydney Long, and she does South Jersey for NBC 10. It was amazing. It was fabulous. And it's all because I paid attention to what the client was doing and what's newsworthy. And then the client let me do whatever I wanted to it.
After that, you're like, come up with everything. We're all in.
I mean, at that point, she was already there. She already knew what I was going to do, and that I was not doing it to drive them crazy and give them more work. I was doing it because the only way to get it actually covered is to make it different and make it interesting. They're not going to cover a conversation about the Olympics with seniors. It's too boring.
Right.
Visually, you could just see how much fun it was and how appropriate, how it tied in. Just a few days ago, we had the Oscar nominations. So they had a couple of celebrities in Zoom doing the readings and the nominations, but at a couple times they did cutaways, and they went to a hospital and they had nurses around doing the nomination. And then right outside our studio on Times Square, they had firefighters, EMS, and paramedics do an announcement. So somebody had a great idea.
Fabulous.
To have first responders, especially with COVID, give a nomination, and it was fabulous. So you were very creative. Somebody else there is very creative. So
you could do that same thing with a school.
Sure.
And so locally, the string theory charter school that I mentioned earlier, or that you mentioned earlier, Michael, that I clarified, they're fabulous at theater. Amazing. So they could have their own award ceremonies, and then it's, because for me, I always see and first responders and 100% are newsworthy right now. But again, it's about making things newsworthy. And so oftentimes we find that making things intergenerational or bringing animals into it when it's a feel-good animal type of story works like a charm.
Yeah.
And I think you have to realize live TV, live news shows, live shows like Good Morning America, 2 hours daily. Producers and bookers are looking all the time. So they're always looking for something that's interesting. So if you have an idea, or if you're a certain person, a certain personality, a certain expert, producers and bookers are always looking for, they need segments, right? They have to all the time.
And see, that's where I don't like to call myself a publicist, because that feels like a publicist to the stars. But that's where publicists have to work so closely with producers and news directors and reporters, because they are looking for content. and I potentially have that content. But if I'm constantly giving them content that they just don't cover, like if I'm constantly calling Good Morning America and I'm like, oh my God, this story is fabulous, and it has nothing to do with anything more than a small little section of Philadelphia,
Right.
it doesn't affect the national news in any way.
Correct.
So you have to pay attention to that at the same time.
And I like what you said. If you are aware of what they need and you keep on pitching and giving them what they need, then they're going to call you. You know, I'm old enough to know a Rolodex, but you'll be in that Rolodex and they'll call you first, or when they see 1,000 emails, like we said earlier, they'll open up yours because you're giving them and you're creative and so I think that's
actually one of the things we use when we're talking to potential clients about, well, we can write press releases and send them. Okay, we have established relationships with reporters and with news desks and with producers, and so that we know what they're looking for, and they come to us when something is about a certain topic that they know we work. I've actually had a reporter, the same woman I mentioned who did the Olympic story, she will call me or text me for next to not everything, but something she's working on in South Jersey. And if she's not sure she has a connection, she'll ask me if I do, because she knows that I'm willing to do whatever I can for her. And so that's one of the ways that one of the topics that we touch on when we're talking to potential clients is, this is the knowledge that I have because this is all I do.
And in your capacity as a publicist, or whatever title you want to give yourself,
no idea.
You're pitching stories for many clients.
Yeah.
Now, anybody that's on this video right now that want to be on camera, right? So do you just have one niche? So you're always pitching that one niche, or do you have 5 or 6 or 7 niches that producers and bookers say, oh, I like this person. This person could do this, and they could do this, and they could do this, and they could do this. So it's an interesting thing.
Yes, and I do have a niche, but my niche reaches a whole lot of different things. So, and it took me a while to figure out how to put this in words. We call what we do experiential public relations. And so most of our clients offer some sort of experience to their clients. Now, we work with theaters, we work with assisted living, we work with music stores, we work with orchestras, all different kinds. And so you're not going to put theater and assisted living in the same niche, but it's an experience. And so that's what personally we are really good at pitching, at selling, at whatever adjective you want to put in there, is creating a way to tell that experience's story.
For people that want to get more media attention, besides working with an organization like yours, Hope, because I think, especially if you're doing book promotions, things we've talked about, with me and, when my novel comes out.
I cannot wait.
When we get people in front of the camera, for instance, the first time, how do you help them get ready for that kind of environment?
So, well, there's a lot of different things that we do that we tell them, but the most important thing that I tell people is not only will they not want you looking at the camera, if you look at the camera, you will lose it, right? You're having a conversation. Exactly. You're having a conversation with someone. So, I look like I'm looking in different places during this recording, because when Eddie is speaking, I'm looking at where he is on my screen. When you're speaking, I'm looking at where you are on my screen. So when I am occasionally in front of the camera, when there are clients who either can't do it or won't do it, and then I go on and I do it, I am comfortable doing it. I still get nervous. So I look at the person asking me the questions, and I have a conversation with that person. It's the same thing I do when I'm public speaking in a room of 500 people. I find one or two people on this side of the room, one or two people in the middle, and one or two people on this side. And that's who I look at. And that's who I have a conversation with. Something else that we've dealt with, if I give you the background to it, my mother was the press contact when Rabbi Newlander's wife was murdered in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. That was my synagogue. That was the man that bat mitzvahed me. She was the press contact, and she said to the current president of the synagogue, who I call Aunt Linda because I've known her for my entire life, she said, you have to look at every single thing that you are wearing and what you say. If you have too many bracelets on and they're jingling, they'll notice it. If you're wearing expensive rings, they're going to notice the jewels. If you're doing this, you have to be professional. You can totally be in style and look good, but you need to be a little bit understated and not flashy. And you need to answer the questions and not necessarily offer more information, depending on what the interview is.
Right.
And so for me, my biggest bit of advice is, other than knowing what you're talking about, is talking to a human and not talking to the camera.
I agree.
And as a stage manager in the studio, we say that to people all the time. If they're nervous, don't worry about the cameras. We're just having a conversation. Just look at Robin or just look at George and just have a conversation. The cameras, they don't even exist.
Someone else will take care of them. And those are the interviews that go the best when it is a conversation.
Right.
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And building relationships is about not being selfish, right? You have to give to the other person. Hopefully you get as well on occasion, but the biggest thing that we do is we know how to build relationships. We know how to talk to people. We like to talk to people. I never shut up, as anybody who knows me will know, Michael. But you have to stop, take a deep breath, build the relationship, and think through what it is that you're going to say, or just preface it with, all right, I don't know if this will work, but I'm throwing it out there. What do you think? And the other thing is, for me, this is again how I phrase it. I don't have a huge ego, so it's not about me, right? Yeah, I want my business to be a success, but it's about my clients, and if they get what they need, then I'm a success. So those are the biggest things. It's really about building relationships, and you have to look at the beats. You cannot send a music reporter information about a new restaurant opening.
Right. Unless they have great jazz.
Right. I was really trying to come up with the right example, and it wasn't coming. And music and food is what I came up with. But yes, unless they have great jazz. And then you're not talking as much about the food. You're putting the jazz up top. And this is the music that'll be featured. And by the way, we're also a restaurant, and this will happen.
Right. Yeah. Really reach out genuinely and authentically to who you're trying to reach, and make sure you make it important to them, because at the end of the day, they want to look good to their boss and to their viewers. And then once we try and keep all those perspectives in mind, we're more likely to get some of the things that will help us as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember in the old days about trying to make connections. And so I'm talking like out of college. So I'm 62 years old. So like 40 years ago, there wasn't all this internet and LinkedIn where you could find people. So I used to watch TV shows, and I used to look at the credit list, and I used to find who the producers are or directors. I go in the yellow pages, and then I get the addresses for Paramount or MGM or Universal, and I would write personal letters to them. Nowadays, because there is LinkedIn and all the social media, you could find different people that you might want to contact. So try to contact these people, see if they'll start a relationship or chit chat. Or when we do this event, you're going to see all our names. So go to us and friend us and then see who our friends are. I tell people all the time, I say, look at because I have like, I don't know, 5,000 friends or 500, whatever the max is. Look at all the people that I know and say, hey, I know Eddie, and try to develop relationships that way.
So this is what I'm doing right now as a step in growing my business, is looking at who I know and who they know and where I can connect.
Yeah.
For sure. And publicists have special software now. So not only do we not have to watch the credits anymore, which, by the way, there's a really funny meme going around where some kid is talking about making a mixtape or something, and the parent is describing having to sit in front of their stereo with a tape deck waiting for the song they want. I mean, this was my childhood. Like, oh my God, if we actually got it.
Yep.
So we have there's all different software that we can use that keeps track of reporters and what they're doing and where they go. And we kind of create our lists that way now. So it's very convenient and very cool and very expensive.
I have a question for you. So let's say I am a person that wants to be on camera and I want to use you and your company to help promote me or help pitch me. Do you work where I pay a fee up front, or do you get a commission, or if you book me on a show, then you get paid, or like, how does that work? Because I'm curious.
So I don't work with one-on-one that often, mostly because we work with a fee paid upfront. And so an individual is not necessarily going to have the budget to be like, okay, here, let's see what sticks. We don't work on commission, where we are doing the same amount of work no matter what we're doing. So we're creating press lists, we're pitching the press, we're following up. There's so many things we have to do. We're finding the story. Just you being there, I have to be able to create why you should be there and why somebody should want you. They're not going to just listen to what you say and go, oh, okay, you're right, done. So we tend to bill. I'm also not a manager, so it's and my mother does act as a manager sometime to music. But we bill monthly, and we have people pay us, and we tell them all the time that PR is not guaranteed. We will take photos and video from whatever we're doing and send it out after the fact. So if we don't get press at what we're pitching, we then have other ways to try and create opportunity and garner the media attention. But again, all of that is kind of part of that monthly what we do.
And do you feel that every client that comes to you, you say, yes, we'll try to make it happen, or you choose and pick what's a good fit or where you think you could actually help?
Yeah, I'm not going to take someone's money just for the hell of it. I really believe in doing a good job. I really believe in being honest. I actually had an interview with someone this morning who was looking for publicity, and I knew before the conversation that it wasn't the right fit for what we do, and that I wasn't going to pretend like, oh yeah, I can totally do that when I can't. Now, the conversation wound up being a great conversation. I knew it going in. I was still going to have the conversation and not just write someone off. Ultimately, what happened was I gave her advice on which direction to go. She's writing a book, and she was so overwhelmed with the launch idea and this and the book isn't done yet, right? She's doing the illustrations, and so I just kind of said, okay, take a step back. This is the exciting part, but stop thinking about it and just look here. And so I gave her a little bit of guidance, and ultimately told her that we weren't going to be able to help her in a professional manner. And if she wanted me to recommend someone, I absolutely would. But no, I will not just take every client. I don't feel good if I can't find success.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, do you have other friends that do what you do or other companies? And will you ever at a certain point say, hey, look, it's not a good fit for me, but I know somebody else or another company and maybe try them?
Absolutely.
Mm.
And we have people do that with us. I mean, there are people, so I'm based in Philadelphia. There are people who focus on restaurant openings and like, oh my God, the king of restaurant openings. And sometimes, and we can do restaurants, but sometimes it's really just going to be better. And so I'll recommend them over. I've had him recommend clients to me. I absolutely will. We all want it. We're a small community. We all want success. There's no reason why we can't work together.
Mm-hmm.
I think I mentioned at one point to Eddie, Michael, while you were out of power, I am the president-elect of the Philadelphia Public Relations Association. And so next year I will be president. And I'd love to see, Michael, what we can do with your conference with PPRA. So we'll talk about that. It's an amazing group of people who are there to support each other. We do educational events. Media panels are the best events that we do because we get an opportunity to talk to a producer, to talk to a reporter, and ask them how they like to be pitched and ask them what kind of story they want. And I have some fabulous relationships with other publicists in the area that I 100% will recommend if need be.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your insight, your experience, and also your, I guess, motivation to all of us that to be newsworthy means that not only do you have something you want to get out there, but to really put yourself in the shoes of the people that are trying to put great things on television or on the radio and help meet their needs while you're trying to meet your needs. Because if it becomes a win-win and a win for the viewers, then you've really not only had the exposure you want, but you're more likely to get asked back time and time again.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Love it.